Yo, what's up my people? Welcome back to another one of these unfiltered vlogs. Now in today's video, I want to talk about how important it is to position yourself in the right places, the right environments, the right people. I know I've touched on it like in my previous week in the life vlog, but I want to go more in depth on this one and give you guys more technical, more details and more stories on how I have kind of implemented this in my own way. And hopefully give you some kind of ideas to, put your own spin to it and implement it as well. So, reason why this came to mind is because one of my new friends who just moved into town, into Miami, my boy Dayton, I met him at the gym, and he was just telling me he's from Tennessee and he's trying to, kind of figure everything out. Because he's on a new journey as well, and he's fresh here in Miami, but he's very ambitious and like-minded as I am. We get along well. We value many of the same things, same principles about life. And he was just kind of asking me like my take on what he should do, and I told him, well, you're already landed here in Coral Gables. That's one of the smoothest starts you could possibly have. Like, for those of you guys who don't know about like Miami, Coral Gables is more of an affluent location. It's a little bit more old school, but still modern, still busy, but it's not like Brickell. It's not like hectic, and it's not flooded with like new money where there's people with iced out watches and Lambos. It's more of like where the G-Wagons, the Rolls Royces, the Bentleys hang out, with the people with plain Jane watches. That's where all these kinds of people hang out. So anyways, he was just asking me, and I told him my story, how when I first moved here to Miami, I started off in a place a little further away from the scene, Kendall. And I was just telling him that when I started, I was working two retail jobs. I was working at H&M and I was working at Coach to make this whole thing work. And I was still renting a room at that time. I didn't have an apartment like this yet. And I told him what really changed for me was when I decided to kind of change my positioning. So taking my previous experience, so like I had a little bit of dealership experience when I lived in Illinois. I was a porter for Honda, and I also was a salesman for Ford and Lincoln products. So I had a little bit of dealership experience under my belt already from home, and then I also had my first taste of luxury fashion working for Coach. So what I'm trying to get at, guys, is I was sick and tired of my lifestyle, working two mall jobs, and I didn't like where I lived. I didn't like the environment per se. Like, yes, it was a stepping stone because, I had to go through that to start off. I had to start somewhere in Miami, but I was getting to that point where I was like, I can't take this anymore. Something has to change. So what I ended up doing was I took my experiences, luxury fashion, and a little bit of my dealership experience, and I figured, you know what, let's do luxury automotive. So I started looking around, see where I could get a gig, and I found the Collection dealership. That's for those of you guys who do watch my vlogs, that's where the Week in the Life vlog was at. So that was my first taste. So what I did was I applied for an entry-level position at that job because yes, I had sales experience with Ford and Lincoln product, but I only did that for a year, and they wanted more experience, and I guess it didn't help that I was a fucking kid, man. So it was a lot harder to apply for a position such as a Ferrari salesman or an Audi salesman. So I just took an entry-level position, and I took they called it the client service ambassador. Fancy way of saying greeter, but essentially what I did was I was at the service drive, and I would greet the customers coming in, and I would check them in with their for their service appointment with their service advisor, and I would take the iPad, and it wasn't really part of my job description, but it's just something I learned from other service advisors. And I would take the iPad and I would just do a video walk around of the cars. So I did that for Audis, Porsches, Aston Martins, McLarens, Ferraris, what else was there? Jaguars. Yeah, that was kind of my thing. But the reason, guys, what I'm trying to get at is the reason I chose this position, even though it was entry, is because I knew that I would not be able to mark up my income. There was no way I could leverage my 2 retail jobs and use that to mark up to another company and like get paid double, triple, or even 25% to 50% more. There's just no way. So I thought to myself, you know what? If I can't get a high position, why not just put myself in a place where I'm surrounded by people who've already done it? Why not surround myself with people who I want to be like in the future? So, and I felt like that's actually perfect. Like luxury automotive, like I'll work with ambitious people. Like there's going to be people there who earn a lot of money at the dealership. There's going to be a lot of clientele there who earn a lot of money because they own these kinds of cars. So that was my very first taste of proper positioning. I did it with strategy. I knew, yeah, the pay was not going to be good, but the people that I would have access to, it would increase my likelihood of learning some things, possibly make more money, more connections, learn, right? And that's exactly what it did. So anyways, I start working this job, I start learning my role. And what I did with this role was I started to network with the people who did work there. I started to understand the dynamic of the dealership, the culture, who was there, who was, I guess you could say, like important, or who was doing well per se. And I ended up making I ended up meeting my best friends through that job. Like those of you guys who've seen Blair from the last video, I met him because I gave him a lead. So there's this guy who came into the service drive because he was getting his car serviced. Ended up being me checking him in, and he liked me and he said, "Hey, I'd like to buy a car. Where's the Audi showroom?" And I took him there, and he asked me if I could refer him to anybody. I looked around. I was still new, didn't know anybody, but I saw this cool dude. He was like the only one smiling. Happened to be Blair, the one you guys saw. And I said, "Hey, brother, I'm kind of new here. Do you sell Audis?" He told me, "Yeah, I do. I'm new as well." And that's kind of where we met. And he's like, "Yo, thank you so much for this. Since I'm new here, this means a lot. If I end up closing this guy on a deal, lunch on me." Sold the customer an Audi, and we've been like really good friends ever since. He is the day one. As for this story, my story here in Miami, Blair is a day one, and then there's also George and Kelsey that I met. So I want to keep this short because I could go on and on, guys, but I've met my best friends and people who've really taught me the game of how all this stuff works, in terms of how to use my ambition, just my outlook on life. They helped me mature, grow, and just help me develop really. Their moral support means a ton. So yeah, I've met my best friends there at that dealership, and also I did end up, because I would be sorry, lost train of thought. Because I would be very client facing, what I also started to do was talk to the customers, and whenever there was a really cool customer, like let's just say he came to pick up his 720S, right? And he was nice, made small talk. I'll kind of like pick his brain, be like, "Hey brother, like, I love your car. Yeah, you seem like a really cool guy. Like, if you don't mind me asking, I'd love to know, what is it that I have to do to get a car like this? Like if I could hear a little bit of your story, or if you have any kind of advice, I'd love to hear it if you don't mind." And like, I would ask things like this all the time to anybody who was cool, any customer who had a good energy, good vibe. I would just ask them questions. And that's how I basically developed my network. That's how I met other people around my age who were doing, way better than I was at that time. Like I met people my age who are like crypto millionaires, coming in with like a fucking lime green, 765 LT or something like that. Or another kid would come in like a Ferrari every now and then. But most of the younger guys would come in with like the McLarens. Anyways, I digress. But you get my point. So I used every opportunity that I could to speak with people, and that's where the positioning really made that ROI because I had access to people who've already done it, people who I aspire to be like. I ended up meeting this guy, drove in with a Macan, ended up being from Chicago, where I'm from, and yeah, we exchanged numbers, and yeah, now if God forbid if there's ever something with the law that I get myself into, I have a lawyer that I know. So like just little bits like these, right? And just that overall experience, I used that to leverage myself into working for Lucid Motors eventually, and that's where I did more of that service writing aspect of things. And then because I was doing that and I was also client facing, this led me to even more opportunity to meet more high net worth clientele, but the demographic was quite different because you rather get a younger crowd when it comes to exotic cars. Usually you get like 25 to 35, and a lot of older guys too, with like the Ferraris, Astons, McLarens, but it's rather a younger crowd. But with the Lucids, they're more of an older demographic, and this job was really cool because it was very hands-on. So I will have to, time to time, drive these Lucids myself to a client's house to drop it off, or I'd have to get driven there to pick up their car for service, things like that. And I would go to these really, I would say, expensive residential areas. I don't know the right terminology, but you get my point. Like I'd be in rich people areas essentially. And whenever I would get along with, one of these clients who owns a Lucid, a lot of times they would actually invite me into their home and like ask me, hey, like, can I get you something to drink? And, I would, pick their brain for a little bit, just hang out, spend time with them, get to know them. And yeah, they'll just drop gems on me about life. Like I've met a bunch, I've met all kinds of people just by getting this job, and it's allowed me to see what life has to offer, what's possible. Like one of my favorite clients, he was a client. He lives in Hibiscus Island, and I went to Hibiscus Island. Got to hang out with him, met his wife, and just learned about like his story, and he just gave me his outlook in life. And he was telling me how he had the traditional career path, but then he went into business for X reasons, and just he gave me a lot of game. And I only have this game, I only have these experiences, I only know these people because I positioned myself well. It all came from my environment. So whenever you want to, that's not the right word for it. If you want to, I guess you could say, be successful or see some success, you want to change, you want more for yourself, environment is a very, very important factor. And I'd almost like to argue that it's a make or break to your success, because like aside from a business or career / work standpoint, like being here in Miami, I'm way more of an optimistic person. Being here, moving to a new city, I got the opportunity to start with a blank canvas. I've been able to rewrite, who I am as a person, what I want to be known for, So there's a lot of advantages to investing into your environment. And I've always said this before, like, I know not everybody can do it. It's very risky to move to a new city, especially if, things aren't exactly, if you don't have everything, if you don't have a full plan figured out from the start, I get it. So you got to start off with your small wins, right? Like I always tell my people who don't really have that opportunity to move out right away, spend your time at a cafe that you really like, as silly as that sounds. There could be something about that cafe. Maybe it's inspiring. Maybe like all the best ideas come about when you're at that cafe. Maybe there's just some really cool people that work there that you get along well with, and the vibe is nice, and the better side of you comes out. You're more optimistic, right? So do not neglect your environment. It's a very powerful thing, and it could change things for you. Like that is key. Like I don't think these YouTube videos would be here if I didn't move to Miami. So yeah, guys, that's a little bit about positioning yourself, and you can take this concept and you could apply it to other aspects of your life, right? So you can apply it with even like your social media, positioning your social media, how you want to market yourself, you know, what kind of leads or people you want to attract, what kind of networking, what kind of people you'd like to network with, right? You got to be like a chameleon to a degree. Not saying you have to be fake, always be authentic to yourself. But you also have to know how to adapt to be able to thrive in whatever marketplace you want to thrive in. So yeah, guys, that is the gem for today. Like and subscribe if you guys want to see more unfiltered stuff like this. If I did miss out on anything, please feel free to comment as well. And yeah, another day in the life vlog will be dropping soon, so stay tuned for that. So till then, guys, hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.